Hi folks, I'm Matt and welcome to My Expanded Universe, a show where I go through the entire EU in chronological order as best I know how. Folks, this is why I do the reviews, right? I am so happy we're in the Bantam era, and I'm so happy that I finally get to talk about one of my favorite trilogies within the Bantam era, and that is the Jedi Academy Trilogy. And we're going to start off with Book 1. Of course, these are all written by Kevin J. Anderson. The first book is called Jedi Search. Now, there's a lot going on in Jedi Search. Let me just recount a few things. First off, Luke Skywalker announces to the New Republic Council that, hey, you know what? It's time for me. He announces he's a Jedi Master now, and he is going to reestablish the Jedi Order and create a Jedi Academy. Now, Mon Mothma says, okay, how about on Yavin 4, you know, where those temples were? And Luke goes, yeah, that's great. There's a strong history of Jedi there. I'd like to go there. So that's established. Now we're entering in this new era where it's not just Luke on his own. This is what's kind of changing the direction of the expanded universe by now expanding the Academy. Now, this is kind of fairly early in the Bantam era books. There weren't that many books that come out. So, of course, this is the next evolution, the next step in the progress of expanding our universe. And so he and Lando, that's right, Lando gets utilized in this story, are going out there and trying to find Jedi. And they come across, the first two they come across is first off Gantoris. He is a warrior, he's a man's man. And you're like, yeah, Gantoris is awesome. And then they go the exact opposite, you know, and they find this hermit named Streen. Streen is quiet. He's kind of, you know, he's quiet. He's to himself. He's not very boastful and big and braggadocious like Gantoris. And I like how we have two different types of characters here who are both very qualified, at least in Luke's mind, to come join the Academy. Now, Lando, on the other hand, isn't being as successful finding a few people. He finds a few false leads, but at least it gives Lando something to do. And Lando's not just there just to, you know, fill story pages. He actually is a pretty good character in this book. Now, meanwhile, while all this epicness is going on, we got to flash forward to see what Han and Chewie are up to, right? Leia's fine. The kids have come back out of hiding, you know, and she's kind of watching the kids now. The kids do escape. They do get lost in the underground of Coruscant. They have their first kind of mini adventure. They're young kids at this point, but they have their first mini adventure. Now, this is very interesting because I think it's the first time that we really see the kids get their own little storyline, which they hadn't. I mean, they'd been around, but they weren't much for, you know, having their own storyline. This is the first time the children now actually have a little side story. It's pretty fun. But for Han and Chewie, what they're doing is they are going to Kessel. And from there they meet Mareth Duel, and he kidnaps them and throws them in the spice mines. But while they're in the spice mines of Kessel, they come across Kip Durand. Kip Durand is a young kid who has a little bit of force ability. He befriends Han. Han and Chewie kind of adopt him as part of their gang. They escape from Kessel. They make it into something, out of the frying pan into the fryer, find this Maul installation, which is this hidden within this Maul installation, this installation of concentrated stars and whatnot, is a secret scientific lab that was placed there and set up there by Grand Moff Tarkin years ago. In fact, running that is a small armada, I think it's 3 Star Destroyers, and her name is Admiral Dala. Oh wow, a female admiral. Now, remember, Rogue Squadron that had never come out yet. We didn't know many female leaders or any female leaders existed in the Empire. Remember, the Emperor was very much against females being in power, positions of power, as he was aliens being in the Navy. So this is a real big exception that this girl is Admiral. Well, we find out why, because she was Tarkin's lover. And so Tarkin kind of gave her her own little promotion, but, you know, segregated her into this Maul installation. Very few ships she controlled, but she had the title of Admiral. So in a way, it's like, well, did she really earn that title? That's what you're thinking. Is she really as ruthless and, you know, calculating as we all think? And, well, I'll get into what I think about her later on. Anyway, so they find her. They find out this is where the Death Star was basically created. Now, of course, there's a book I've already mentioned earlier called The Death Star, where they kind of retcon all the stories surrounding the Death Star, and they include Kevin J. Anderson's Maul installation. So now that we know a little bit better picture, what they did the Maul installation was they kind of perfected the Death Star plans. They didn't know who, it was a bunch of people in a room not knowing who had created what. In fact, some scientists believe that they were the ones that created the Death Star. No, you weren't. They gave you the blueprints and they let you come to the same conclusion, but they were getting that because they wanted to see you have a different scope, a different idea, a different projection of how to solve certain issues, flaws that were in the Death Star. Well, they didn't solve all the flaws, right? Anyway, what I'm getting to is there's a scientist there called, I don't know how to pronounce her name, but Zux is the scientist, and she helps Han, Chewie, and Kip escape there, and they go back to the New Republic. Now, let me get into some of the stuff that I really like about Kevin J. Anderson's writing here, because I love these books. I absolutely love them, and you should definitely read them all. So anyway, one of the first things we read about is Admiral Akbar. Admiral Akbar is in here. Wedge Antilles is in here. He's got a great storyline. Remember, this is back before Rogue Squadron had come out, so we're getting a Wedge storyline. He has his own storyline in this. So do a lot of the big characters. Mon Mothma has a storyline in it, but Akbar's storyline was really interesting, especially in book 1, because he and Leia are visiting the planet Vortex, and they're going to see this Cathedral of Winds, which is basically one giant wind chime. It's a big crystal palace or glass palace with wind chimes. As the wind blows through it, it makes all this music. And so they're going to see it, New Republic relations, trying to bring someone else into the New Republic. And Admiral Akbar's B-Wing is basically sabotaged. And so he's about to crash into the cathedral. I mean, everything's going to, when he crashes in there, everything's going to fall apart. And this Cathedral of Winds is the centerpiece of the planet Vortex. And I remember as Admiral Akbar is trying desperately to right the ship away from the cathedral, he knows it's not going to happen. And there's a great scene where he turns and he's talking to Leia. He says, and he has this defeated look on his face. He went, "Please tell whatever the alien species was, I'm sorry." And then it just crashes in there. You're like, oh my gosh, is he all right? Did he live? Yes, he does. Of course he lives. But and he's injured for a little while. And of course that creates a disaster there that the New Republic, a political disaster, they don't need. They're trying to still get as many planets on their side as they can because they're still fighting the Empire. Remember, they're kind of scattered. They're warlords at this moment, but they need all the help they can get. So this doesn't really bode well for them. But that whole scene just really stuck out to me. A few other things too was when the kids are lost in Coruscant. This is our first time to see the underground, the lower levels. They're a little bit more dangerous. We see abandoned streets where there is, and I love this, there's a maintenance droid that's still working. Even though nothing works down there, he's unscrewing light bulbs or something and putting new ones in that don't work. But his programming, he doesn't realize that nothing is working anymore, but he keeps continuing his program to, parade down the street and fix things, even though he's not doing any good. I kind of like that kind of imagery there, and it was the first time we got a sense of what goes on Coruscant underground. We knew it's a big city planet built upon levels upon levels upon levels, but the lower you go, we never had this is our first look at the underworld of Coruscant. That's another thing I really liked about the book. Oh gosh, of course that they utilized Lando, which a lot of the early stories did. I also like that as well. I think Zux is a fantastic character, and I really enjoyed her, and I absolutely adore Kip Durand. Let me tell you something. When I read these books, I was Kip Durand's age. Kevin J. Anderson knew that there were younger kids, not just adults. He knew there were younger kids like me out there reading these novels. We were at 13. I read the Zahn trilogy. And so he knew there were kids out there, so why not create a character for them? And that's exactly what Kip Durand was. He was a character for that younger reader to connect to. And boy, did I connect to that younger reader. I was like, yes, Kip Durand is just like me. He's friends with Han Solo. He's partying with Han and Chewie. He's cool like that, but also he has the Force in him. Ooh, 2 thumbs up. I'm really liking this kid. And I felt like I was Kip Durand, and I was part of that journey too, and that's exactly why the character was created. But Kip Durand is a fantastic character. He has that coolness that Han and Chewie like, and Han and Chewie have kind of adopted him because he doesn't have a family, and so he's kind of there. They bring him into their family. It's really beautiful that he's going to be, in the Jedi at the Jedi Academy with Luke. You're super excited about too, because that's another Jedi. And so the story is, this is kind of Kip's story in a way, as you'll find out. That character, fantastic, absolutely wonderful. So what did I think about book one? Book one is a big, huge start, but folks, that's not all. Wait, just wait till we get to the other ones. I'll see you next time with another video.